Hello everybody, my name is George. I'd like to introduce you to my channel, Computer Smart. The premise of my channel is to hopefully educate you on the field of computers, how to troubleshoot them, how to upgrade them down the line, and how to code. Well, hopefully. So today that's what we're going to be focusing on, is how to code. So if you take a look at the top of at your screen right now, you'll notice that I have a some code written on there, some very simple juvenile code. But this is great to learn from if you're a beginner. So if you start looking at programs and how they're written, you'll notice two things: that they always have these lines like this, hashtag include lines, and they also have always has a main, something called main, which is your main function, and this is where all the main processes are held in, usually most of the time. So let's start off with the hashtag include. So the hashtag include signifies the compiler that, hey compiler, I'm gonna add in a library right now. And a library is a group of information that adds functionality to that language. For example, what you see here, standard io.h, it means standard input and output library. So that library adds the functionality of having printf and scanf, which is input and output. So that input and output adds a huge functionality to the program and what you can do, just that alone. So let's go ahead and see what that provides to us. So again, you see the int main, which is our main function, and then you have these two parentheses. These two parentheses are for functions that have arguments within them, but you won't need to know that right now. So we'll just skip over that, and you'll see that they have brackets surrounding each function, meaning, hey compiler, this is the beginning of my function, and this would be the end of my function. So don't go any further than this. So so some people down the line when they begin the code, especially beginners, they'll forget to have like little mistakes like this, having a function end with having the end bracket, and the compiler will tell you missing bracket before this line. But sometimes it can give more generic errors, so you have to watch out for that. I'll give an example. So if you erase this bracket that was there, and you go ahead and execute, compile, and run, it's going to say expected quotations bracket at the end of at the end of input. So it'll tell you most of the time what's wrong. But sometimes you're on your own. You're gonna have to figure it out yourself. So if we keep going down the simple code I have here, you'll see that I have float. I'm declaring a variable here. I'm declaring three variables: nx, and sum. So float is basically a computer term for decimal number, in its layman's terms. And there's things such as int, which means, of course, integers. So an integer is like a whole number that can be negative and positive, like -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. A float is, once again, a decimal. So we're going to be working with floats, and the program we're going to try to create today is a program that adds two numbers together. So if you keep going, you'll see the semicolon, and a semicolon is used to end most lines. Sometimes you don't need to end a line. Sometimes you have a loop, and a loop is something more complex that we'll get into later discussions. So most of the time, just know that you're going to need semicolons at the end of each line. And you'll see these two backward slashes. So two backslashes means that I'm going to comment this out. Means basically I'm going to take a note right here. So when you note something, the compiler just ignores it and just keeps on going. So it stops here, goes the next line. Stops there, goes the next line. So when it sees these two backslashes, it just ignores them because it's just a comment. So it's always good to have comments, so it makes it for other programmers, your teachers, easier to read, to know what you're doing in that one block of code. So as I say right here, I'm declaring a variable, or declaring variables. All right. So the next line, printf. So printf just means I'm gonna print to screen. So the way you use this is you state printf, you write it, you type it out, then type in 2 parentheses here and there. And then within those 2 parentheses, you want 2 quotation marks. And then within those 2 quotation marks is what you actually want to be printed on screen. In this case, I want enter 2 numbers you would like to add. And then you see /n/n. /n means new line. So it's just a new line character. And this really comes in handy for aesthetics of a program. So you want to make it look good. You don't want like a continuous line of numbers or stuff like that. You want to make it look good and presentable. So that's always a plus. And you have the end quotation mark and then end line, which is the semicolon. So then we move down to scanf. Scanf, like I said earlier, is the input, and you want in this program you want a user to input 2 variables, 2 float variables, and the way you do that is you type scanf, then you have 2 parentheses, and then within those 2 parentheses, you have 2 quotation marks, and within those 2 quotation marks you have I call them placeholders because it's easier to understand that way. So when you have 2 placeholders, you're saying, I want this %f, which means float. F is just short for float. So I want this %f to be read in by the computer, but put in by the user, and then read that in, and then read it into the variable n. And then same for this f. It reads it in and reads it into x. So then it saves that variable the user put in under n and then x. So it's nice to think of them as placeholders, just holding the place of those variables. Some people have a hard understanding how scanf works, but this is the basic terminology, is that you take whatever you're gonna input by the user, whatever type it is, integer, float, double, anything like that. Then you end the quotation marks. Then you have a comma and the ampersand of the variable, the first variable, and comma, second variable, comma, whatever, how many variables you have. So it's in order. So don't be putting x when you want n there, and don't be putting n where you want x. So it's all in order from how you place these f's. Which brings us to the last real, the actually only computation we need for this code, which is the sum. So we declared sum up here, but now we're gonna initialize sum to an actual value, and that value is gonna be the n plus x, and then n line. It's as simple as that, just simple math. So then we go ahead and we have another printf statement, and we want to print the value of sum. And you're gonna ask me how you do that. Well, we're gonna do the same thing as we did up here. We're gonna say the sum of the 2 numbers you entered is colon, just for aesthetics, and then you go ahead and then put in percent. You know, I actually don't need this. I'll explain that later. %f, which is the placeholder again. So you're saying the sum of the 2 numbers you entered is, and then you just like put a variable there, and that variable is gonna stand for sum, and we put it after the comma over here, and that means it's all in order. Again, it's all in order. So that means this sum, the value of sum is gonna go right here when it gets compiled and the program is ran or runs. Is it run? Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. So after the program runs, this the value of sum is gonna be spit out into this placeholder, and that's how the printf works. That's how you printf a value of a variable. And then I have these new line characters because I don't want to show you I don't want everything to be jumbled on one line. I want the press any key to continue to be on a different line just so it doesn't get mashed up together. So on Dev C++, there's by default, like I said earlier, when you run a program and you don't have the system pause, it's going to cancel out instantly. So when you don't have when you don't have system pause, so I just commented it out. So the compiler is just gonna ignore it. When you do that, and you go to compile and run, and you just put 5 and then 5 again, 5 plus 5, it's just gonna cancel it out immediately. It's gonna finish the computation, but it's not gonna like have it up there long enough for you to view. So you want that system pause on some IDEs because it's gonna cancel out immediately. So let's go ahead and check over our work and see how we did. So you go to execute, compile, and run, and then you can do this two ways. You can either do the first value, and then space, and then the second value, or you can put the first value in, then enter, and then the second value. Either way is correct. So we're gonna put in two values, 5.2545, and then 6.3221. Some random values I just made up. Press enter, and it says the sum of the two numbers you entered is 11.576600. Yeah. It says press any key to continue. So it finished the program, and this time it didn't instantly close because I have that system pause there. So hopefully this video helps explain the basics of C language and of coding in general, because most coding is going to be like this. You're going to have the option of input, the option of output, and the option to declare and initialize variables. So hopefully this gave you a good understanding of how to code. Just the basics though. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If not, please give me a comment critiquing me, telling me what I can improve on, and if you have any other suggestions for any videos you want to know about, please just comment, give me a comment. Thanks. Have a great day. This is Computer Smart.